Hi, welcome to the Midrash Says Out Loud. This week we will be learning the Midrash Parasha, Pekudai. I hope this channel will open your mind to the great teaching of the sages and deepen your connection to the Torah. If you have not already, remember to like, share, and subscribe as we journey through the Midrash each week. Before we begin, we invite you to get your tea and a comfortable chair and relax as you listen to the Midrash out loud. Pekudai. The reckonings of the Mishkan. The Mishkan and all its holy vessels were completed. Moshe then told the children of Israel, "Let me present to you an exact account of how I used the materials which you donated." The opening phrase of this Parsha, Aile Pekudai HaMishkan, these are the reckonings of the Mishkan, implies that Moshe sat down in front of the people to present a reckoning how he had employed every ounce of gold, silver, and copper, which had been contributed. Then Moshe gave his calculations to a second person, Isamar ben Aharon, for verification. Moshe computed that 29 kikar, talents, and 730 shekel of gold had been donated, and 100 kikar and 1775 shekel of silver, Shemot 38:24-25. As he was trying to determine, however, for which objects the silver had been used, he remained with the sum of 1757 silver shekel which was unaccounted for. As much as he searched his mind, he could not remember what he had done with them. He was afraid that someone might suspect him of embezzlement. Finally, a heavenly voice came forth and proclaimed, "With these 1775 shekel, the hooks for the pillars, Vavim, were built." The pillars that surrounded the courtyard had silver hooks attached to them which held the curtains in place between the pillars. Moshe was relieved. The children of Israel rejoiced that all of their donations had been accepted by Hashem for the holy purpose of the Mishkan. Why was it that Moshe, who was pronounced Naaman, trustworthy by the Almighty himself, Bamidbar 12-7, found it necessary to justify his actions before the people? Moshe had overheard remarks among the people. Some of them commented, "Of late Ben Amram's neck is very fat." And he had heard the reply, "No wonder, he is in charge of all that money for the Mishkan." Moshe had then sworn to himself, "As soon as the Mishkan is built, I will render an exact account of the way I used the money." These were certainly the remarks of sinful individuals. The community of Israel on the whole trusted Moshe as the truthful agent who had been selected by Hashem to transmit the Torah to his people. Some individuals, however, were puzzled about Moshe's sudden wealth. They did not know that Hashem had permitted him to keep the sapphire which remained after he had hewn the lukot. He had thus grown rich. Moshe himself knew that he had been a faithful trustee in administrating the monies of the Mishkan. Nevertheless, he rendered an exact account of his actions because he did not want anyone to suspect him wrongly. It is correct for a person to clear himself of any suspicion in people's eyes and not to content himself by saying, "GD knows the truth." The person who collected the money for the fund of the Bais Hamikdash would not wear a double-hemmed garment in which he could hide money, a hollow belt, or even pants. If he would become rich later, people could not claim. He became rich from the communal treasure. Just as a person must behave in a manner which Hashem would consider faultless, so should he see to it that all his actions leave him free of suspicion in the eyes of others. The phrase, Moshe fulfilled Hashem's commandment as Hashem told him, recurs throughout this Parsha. It is repeated a total of 18 times. Correspondingly, the men of the Great Assembly instituted that the Tefillah of Shemoneh Esrei contain 18 blessings. They thus hinted at the fact that nowadays, when we no longer have a Mishkan or a Bais Hamikdash, our Tefillah stands in place of the Korbanot. The Torah stresses that Moshe built the Mishkan as Hashem told him, to impress upon us the fact that Moshe constructed it in every detail according to the divine command. This was true not only in the simple material sense. Moshe also grasped the divine thoughts and illusions symbolized by the various components of the Mishkan. Finally, the new yeshiva building was completed. It had been designed by an expert architect to meet all the needs of the young Torah students. It included a spacious, airy, and light Beis Midrash. The sophisticated layout of the Otzar HaSefarim, library room, provided a place for quiet concentration, as well as speedy access to all the volumes necessary for learning. Every room had been equipped in a manner which would allow the students to delve into Torah study without undue inconvenience or disturbance. The builders attached a plaque to each room. It bore the inscription, as per the instructions of the famous architect XY. This would make every student and visitor aware of the fact that each detail of this building had been constructed with a plan, the purpose of which was to facilitate Torah study. Similarly, in this Parasha, which concludes the narrative of building, the Mishkan, a label was attached to the description of each object. The Torah adds to every detail. It was built as Hashem told Moshe. We thereby are made to realize that every single instruction with regard to the Mishkan was carried out by Moshe in accordance with the divine plan and purpose. The Shekinah returns to this earth. The Mishkan was completed after 3 months' labor. It was finished on the 25th of Kislev, 2449. Moshe thought that it should be set up and initiated immediately. Hashem, though, said, "The Mishkan will not be consecrated until the month of Nisan." That month was found worthy for its inauguration. It is a month in which the Shekinah illuminates the world, and it is the task of the Mishkan to bring light to the world. Since Kislev was bypassed and not honored as the month in which the Mishkan would be consecrated, it was chosen instead as the month for the holiday of Chanukah, which begins on the 25th of Kislev. The people came to Moshe, each one bringing the piece he had constructed for the Mishkan. One said, "Here is my board," and another, "Here is my beam." When Hashem commanded Moshe, "Do not set up the Mishkan but leave it folded for another 3 months till Nisan," the scoffers among the people remarked, "Do you believe that the Shekinah will actually dwell upon the handiwork of Ben Amram?" On the 1st of Nisan, Hashem commanded that the Mishkan finally be set up. Those very same scoffers tried to put it together, but it would not stand. Then all the wise men of the generation toiled to erect it, but were unable to do so. Finally, Moshe set up the Mishkan single-handedly. He merely touched the beams and they miraculously placed themselves in their proper positions. The inauguration ceremony, Miluim, of the Mishkan lasted 8 days. Hashem taught Moshe in which place to set up each vessel, how to perform the avodah, how to offer the ketoret, how to prepare the candles of the menorah, how to anoint all the vessels in order to consecrate them, how to offer korbanot, how to dress Aharon and his sons in bigdei kahuna, and how to anoint them. The 8th day of the inauguration was the 1st of Nisan. The great events of that special day are related in detail in Parshat Shemini. On that day, the ketoret was offered. And then finally the cloud of the Shekinah descended upon the Mishkan and filled it with its presence. Hashem created the world so that his Shekinah could reside therein. However, Adam sinned. The Shekinah then withdrew to the first heaven. When Cain sinned, the Shekinah departed to the second heaven. The generation of Anosh with their crimes caused the Shekinah to recede to the third heaven. The wicked generation of the flood made the Shekinah retreat to the fourth heaven. The corruption of the generation of the dispersal pushed the Shekinah back to the fifth heaven. On account of the wickedness of Sodom and its neighboring cities, the Shekinah departed to the sixth heaven. Finally, the depravity of the Egyptians in Abraham's time made the Shekinah withdraw to the seventh heaven. 7 tzaddikim restored the Shekinah to the world. Abraham brought it back to the sixth heaven. Yitzchak returned the Shekinah to the fifth heaven. Yaakov caused the Shekinah to descend to the fourth heaven. Levi brought it back to the third heaven. Kahat drew it back to the second heaven. Amram restored the Shekinah to the first heaven. When Moshe erected the Mishkan, the Shekinah descended from the first heaven and once again returned to earth. Although the Shekinah was centered in the Mishkan, Hashem's glory radiated from there to the entire world. While the cloud of glory rested upon the Mishkan, Moshe did not enter, out of respect for the Shekinah. Hashem therefore distinguished him by summoning him in the presence of all the community of Yisrael. Vayikra 1:1. The greatness of the Mishkan. In the first pasuk of Parshat Pekudai, the Mishkan is termed Mishkan Ha'aidut, the Mishkan of testimony. It bore this name since it served as a witness to all the nations that Hashem had forgiven the Jewish people for the Chait Ha'igel. The Mishkan was so great that its holy vessels never fell into non-Jewish hands. When the Bais Hamikdash was built, they were transferred there, and before the temple's destruction, they were hidden in its subterranean chambers. The construction of the Mishkan was dearer to Hashem than the creation of the entire universe. The universe emerged through mere pronouncements emanating from Hashem's lips. The Mishkan was more precious, however, because it came into being through the manual toil of the great tzaddikim, Moshe, Betzalel, Ahaliav, and all of the community of Yisrael who participated in its construction. Hashem also took part in the building, as it states, the sanctuary, O Hashem, which your hands established. Shemot 15:17. Concerning the Mishkan it is said, "Go out and see the community of Yisrael, the king to whom all peace belongs, the crown which the community of Yisrael made for him, the Creator." Which crown is this? It is the Mishkan, which was adorned with gold, silver, and diamonds, just like a crown. Shir Hashirim 3:11. How great was the happiness of the Creator! Although heaven and earth cannot contain His glory, He confined His Shekhinah to the Mishkan. Ma tovu ohaleka Yaakov. How goodly are your tents, Yaakov! The Mishkan of the Shekhinah and the tent of Moshe, Mishkanoteka Yisrael, all the Mishkanot, dwelling places for the Almighty, which you built, the Mishkan of the wilderness, of Shiloh, of Nov, and of Gibon. The cloud of glory rested upon the Mishkan by day, and a cloud of fire by night, visible to the community of Israel during all their journeys in the wilderness. How fortunate the people who experience this. How fortunate the people whose GD is Hashem. Tehillim 144:15. Thank you for joining this week's journey through the Midrash. If you enjoyed this story, don't keep it to yourself. Share this channel with someone. Please hit the like, share and subscribe button for the next story. See you next week on the Midrash Says Out Loud.